live on the outskirts of a mid-sized town in Wyoming. The whole reason I live here is because owning a huge plot of land isn't as impossible of a task as it can be in most other states.
Yeah,
My
well,
house
you're
is
in
small,
Wyoming.
but it was cozy enough for living alone. This happened 4 years ago, in 2019. It was spring, and we were going through a month of pouring rain almost every single day. It was a Sunday, and I was home from work, spending the day watching TV and resting. Sometime around 6 or 7, I got an unexpected knock at my door. I barely heard it through the rain, and when I answered the door, I was even more surprised to see it was some random guy. Not a mailman or anything of the sorts.
Vegeta looking
Someone
motherfucker.
coming all the way out onto my property without
It
notice
does
was
say it
very
because stop playing. We
unusual,
open
being
it.
that it was far out of the way. "How can I help you?" I said.
What the fuck you
The
want?
guy, looking somewhere in his late 20s, said he'd been camping out in the woods nearby and had gotten into some trouble and needed a place to stay for the night.
Oh no.
With the location of my house, if he wasn't lying, then showing up at my doorstep would make sense because I was the closest place within the woods by at least 5 or 6 miles. It was also pouring out, which made me feel even worse for him, but it still didn't take away from the possible danger of letting a
He
stranger
using
into
that
my
as an
home.
excuse.
I offered him a phone call to get a ride into town,
There you
but
go.
the guy denied my offer.
Oh no, man, get the fuck out
After
of here.
bluntly saying he couldn't stay here, the guy walked off.
Nah, that's definitely a red flag. You like this random dude comes up. Can I stay? I got in some trouble. Can I stay here for the night? And you like, well, I mean, I can offer you. You can use my phone, and you can call somebody. He's like, nah, I just need to stay here. And I'm like, nah, you can get the fuck out. Like, what? That made no sense. To be asking this dude, can you stay there? Dude offers you a phone call. Say, hey, you can call somebody. And you like, nah. I've been like, I'm sorry, buddy, but you're going to have to get the fuck out of here. Like, especially if I lived out in a rural area and this dude come knocking on my door telling me I was camping nearby and I got into some trouble. Like what kind of trouble? Somebody looking for you? Because like he said, his house is the only house within like 5 miles. Who looking for you, and for what reason? Like, what I'm like, you talking about staying here for the night? Like, what am I inviting into my house if I decide to do that? I wouldn't do that anyway. Like, I'm sorry, but you can't stay here. Especially you offering him a phone call, and he's like, nah, I just need to stay here. I'm like, nah. See that? I don't give a damn you a woman. I don't give a damn you 100-pound woman or a 300-pound 6'5" man. No. I can be stabbed just like anybody else.
Watched him go down the dirt road a little ways, then he veered off and walked into the woods. As odd as that was, I didn't have it on my mind for more than a few minutes before I was back to watching TV. I didn't check the time very often, but it had to be at least 2 hours later and well into the night when I saw an orange glare coming from the window by my backyard. I got up and moved the curtain. Through the rain and fog, I saw a campfire right in the middle of the woods outside my house. It was small, flickering under a large tree as the rain poured down on it. Standing next to it, there was the outline of a figure holding something.
Yeah, there was the old.
I couldn't tell though if he was facing my house or into the woods. After a moment, I closed the curtains and picked up my phone, calling the police to let them know
Where
about
your
this
gun
person
at?
outside my house. I knew it would take probably an hour.
I know this motherfucker lives in Wyoming. I know he got a gun. He lives out there in a rural area. He has a gun. Anyone who lives in a rural area, really anywhere, has a gun. But especially in like at the northeast, the southeast, maybe not so much the southwest, but I don't know. I mean, I've never lived out there, so but I've never lived in the Northeast either, or Northwest either. But you definitely got it. You should have a gun. You living out there, like I said, especially in the rural, anywhere in the rural area, have at least one gun. You know, I ain't say you gotta play some of these fools with a whole arsenal because you think the government gonna come try to take your guns. Let me get as many guns as I can so the government can come try to take them away. I can try to kill them. It's like, okay.
For them to get here, and whoever was out there wasn't doing me any harm, but at the very least I wanted them away from my house before I went to bed.
Right there on your property?
Once I got off the phone with the officer, I checked the window again. The fire was still burning lightly, but the figure wasn't there. Then I heard footsteps coming toward the house. I ran to the other window and caught sight of him walking past
this
with a
motherfucker got a
hunting
gun
rifle in his hand before he turned the corner and went to the front door. He banged on it a few times, then it went quiet. I grabbed my self-defense handgun from the hallway closet and hid around the wall,
like he's his
still trying to
self-defense
process
handgun.
the situation I was in. He hit the door again. This time I could tell it was with the stock of his rifle, nearly breaking a panel out of the door. In this moment, I could only think that I had to try to deter him immediately.
Why did like a flare
it becomes life or death for one of us. I shot around toward the edge of the door frame, deafening myself for a second as the shot rang through the house. When my hearing came back, all I heard was the rain pouring down. No footsteps, banging, or yelling. I gathered up courage after 5 minutes of no sounds and looked out the peephole, seeing an empty porch, and outside in the yard were clear footprints going away from the house. He must have run right after the shot, during the couple seconds I couldn't hear. Police did a thorough search and found some strange details. Out by where the campfire was, they found a duffel bag with evidence of it having been buried nearby and likely dug up just hours before the attack. What they told me is that it was most likely a burglary kit, or possibly even a murder kit, that was planted in advance with the intent to be dug up and used later on. This means whoever attacked me had planned it and had been...
It's a burglary kit, or potentially a murder kit. Well, good night. It was like, I don't know if I want to live here anymore. I mean, yeah, it's hella cheap here in this state to get this house and this property, but I don't know if I want to deal with this. People coming to my house trying to spend the night, and then when I like no, they come back with a gun, banging on the door like, let me in. Like, just, as he figured he ain't leaving fast enough. He probably out there waiting. Is he gonna leave? But then he made a fire in a storm at night. So you, like I said, you know he was gonna see that light illuminating probably
right
the whole
outside
area.
My house at least once before that night. Why he attacked me specifically is not known, and who and where he is currently is still no closer to being figured out than it was 4 years ago. I still live in the same house and worry every day
got a sword?
that he might come back.
Oh, he has a scar on his face. That means he's super scary.
I was 22 at the time and living in a very small one-bedroom house in the cheapest area of my city. After work on a Friday night, I hopped online to game with a bunch of my friends. It was the perfect night for staying up late, with heavy downpour outside and no work or school the next day. We played for probably 2 hours before a sudden sound had me put everything on pause for a minute. It was a thump sounding like it was upstairs. My initial concern was a possible leak in the roof caused by the rainfall, so I went up to look. The only rooms upstairs were the single bedroom and a half bathroom, and neither of them had any signs of leaks anywhere, So I ran back down and got back online with my friends.
Damn, all you guys have, bro.
I was on for a while, only getting off at 2 a.m. because everyone else went to bed.
Just wash up
I
in the
shut
sink.
everything off and sat on the couch with some snacks while I watched YouTube on my phone. 10 minutes in, I heard another thump. It was from upstairs again, but it was so muffled that it almost sounded like it was on the roof or something. I did an even more thorough search of both my bedroom and the bathroom up there, but there wasn't anything showing itself to be the cause of the sound. I was sure it wasn't thunder either, because it vibrated through the walls like something literally hitting the house. After 10 minutes of looking around, I was so determined to figure it out that I put on my shoes and went out into the rain to see if there was something more noticeable from outside. At first I saw nothing of significance,
I wouldn't have gone outside.
But then I noticed a tree branch getting pretty close to the side of my house. It was a large and sturdy branch though, that was a good 3 or 4 feet away from the siding, and even in the rain, it wasn't really swaying all that much. It seemed unlikely that it could reach the side and bang up against the side of the house.
Because
as I looked at it though, I realized there was a small window on the house that the tree kind of covered up. It was higher than my bedroom window, meaning it had to be an attic. I had no idea there was an attic at this house. The hatch was definitely nowhere noticeable, and the roof wasn't a steep slope, so it didn't...
How do you not know there's an attic? Especially in a house that has a window in the attic. Like you bought this house or rent this house or whatever, and there's a clear window in the front of the house where an attic is. And you didn't know it was an attic? I can understand maybe they didn't say anything to you when they sold you the house or when you rented the house, whatever, maybe. You know, if he's renting it, probably like, hey, yeah, it's an attic. They don't tell you, they're like, don't fuck with it. That's what that means. If I didn't mention it to you, don't fuck with it. You know, like I've had friends who have rented like their house and they have a shed in their backyard, and they're like, you know, that's their stuff in that shed. Like, don't. And he put a lock on it. Like, don't fuck with it. They don't touch that shit. But how do you not notice? That's weird. That's weird that he didn't
look like there would even be room for one. This hidden window was the first clue I'd ever seen.
Hidden is in the front of the house.
I went inside, even more curious than I was before, and started searching for this hatch that I had to have somewhere. It took a minute, but I found it inside my bedroom closet. It was small and perfectly smooth with the ceiling, basically blending in aside from the tiny gaps from where it opens. I stood up on a box and pulled it down, releasing a rusty ladder from the opening. Immediately, I was hit with a rotten smell, followed by another thump sound. From below, I could tell the attic was extremely short, maybe 2 feet tall at most.
I was about to say a dead body or something.
I climbed up
some supernatural shit, and then the noise is still making noises. It's probably
basically a wide, dark tunnel, and at the end by the window, I could make out a figure, ducked down on all fours and looking straight at me.
So shit.
I almost fell off the ladder, trying to jump down and run away. I heard them shuffling around as I got my phone and left the house.
I hope you put the ladder back
in my driveway. The cops got there and detained the man, who was just some homeless person. Apparently he climbed the tree up to the window and made his way in, staying up there for at least a week without me having noticed.
Damn.
The absurdity of it all was almost unbelievable. I moved out very soon after that, and every house since, I've always checked the attics. But the one thing that has stayed with me is the image of that man at the end of the attic, on his hands and knees, staring at me with eyes resembling both fear and anger.
You like shit. You probably contemplating whether he gonna attack you or not.
In my mid-20s, I worked at a retail store as the overnight manager. It It wasn't a big place, and the only reason I was technically a manager was because I'd be the only overnight worker. So, I was in charge of checking stock, filling shelves, and sometimes receiving order shipments. I was very satisfied with the job and never found myself hating the work. And up until this, I hadn't had anything really happen. It was a weekday night, and a storm was just setting in as I started my shift. Over the first hour of being there, the rain had picked up, and the wind was hitting the building much harder than before, making a lot of noise. I was filling the shelves for the first 2 hours, trying to get the time-consuming tasks out of the way first. As I was in the aisle though, I heard a thud sound resonating through the building.
It always starts with
like
a
it came
thud
from the
sound.
back of the store in the warehouse section, where our delivery bay was.
You the only person there.
I walked over and saw the solid metal back door that truck drivers use to get in when making deliveries. The more I thought about it, the more I convinced myself that the thud sounded like a bang at this door, as if a driver was trying to make a delivery, but there were none scheduled for tonight. I opened the door and was met with a face full of cold rain and wind. I stuck my head out briefly to look down at the shipping bay and saw no trucks, so I closed the door and dried off. While walking back to the aisle, I assumed the noise was just the building having shifted a bit from the wind, or maybe just some strange sounding thunder that I hadn't noticed before. I continued working for another full hour before taking a lunch break in the back office, spending maybe 15 minutes there before heading back. But while I was walking through the store, I got this strange feeling, like everything had gone silent, aside from the rain ticking on the roof. It gave me chills, and as I reached the end of the aisle, I saw something that made my heart almost stop. Right next to my cart, halfway down, was a line of wet shoe prints through the aisle.
You ain't here by yourself, buddy.
I approached it without even thinking, and tried to figure out how this was even possible.
Somebody's in there.
I followed them down to the front of the store until I saw so many watery prints going all over that it was impossible to follow. And honestly, horrified to know that they'd walked around the entire place. I ran back to the office and locked myself inside, calling the police and waiting. As I sat there, I only got more scared as I couldn't see outside the office door, and the rain pouring on the building
he's the only
was too
one
loud
here.
for me to hear anything else.
It's not a gas station.
After 10 minutes, the operator that had me on hold came back on the phone and said the police were right outside the building. I quickly got up and opened the door, and right on the ground was another set of watery shoe prints alongside mine, leading right up to the office I was in. I sprinted to the front and hurried to let the police in.
Where's he at so he can beat the shit out of him?
In their search, they didn't find anyone in the store. Security tapes were reviewed not long after, showing us a man in a dark jacket entering the building through a side door that had been left unlocked. He clearly spotted me early on and stayed hidden until I went on break. Then he walked around aimlessly.
Killer Croc.
He didn't steal or break anything. He just went down the aisles and looked at the shelves.
Okay, this fucker's crazy.
But the creepiest and most horrifying part was when I entered the office and waited for the police. The man came up to and stood outside the office door, waiting for several minutes as he stared at the doorknob like he was preparing for me to come out. Luckily, he decided to walk away a few minutes later and exited the store. No more footage of him was seen after that. The man never came back, and as far as I was told, he was never found. What he was doing that night is still uncertain, and it will likely remain as an eerie uncertainty for the rest of my life.
Damn, he ugly. He do it for a face like that, you can't be nothing but evil. I'm sorry. That was fucked up. There's people with facial deformities or injuries and stuff like you can't. Disney has fucked us all up. Now everyone thinks, oh, you got a scar on your face, you must be evil. Like you a bad guy. But yeah, that one with that dude hitting that. I like he comes up to the door. Hey, I got in some trouble. You mind if I stay here tonight? Like, I've been like, yeah, sure. You stay at night in the basement, chained up. Are you okay with that? They're like, no, we didn't get the fuck on. I'm like, it's 5 miles to the road, and then another 10 miles to the nearest town. I'm like, you can go that way. They go over there. There's hotels there, everything you need. Can you give me a ride? No. Like, I'm sorry, but murderers and rapists and stuff, they just ruined it for everybody else. I have given people rides on the highway, even like in Mississippi while I was driving, and it'd be pitch black. I remember one time I was hit a guy. It wasn't quite pitch black. He was almost just outside of town, where it was fewer and fewer street lights. And I saw him, and I said, oh. And I went past him, and I turned around and came back. I said, where's this dude going? I said, especially at night, it was like probably like 1 a.m. And well, maybe not that late, maybe like midnight. And I picked him up. I think I told this before. I picked him up. Nice guy. He was like, his car. Cause I saw a car I had passed. And he was like, yeah, my car broke down. And he said, yeah. I said, yeah, I passed. That was it. Back then, he said, yeah, I was past that. And I drove him. Man, we would drive. At first, I was like, I had like a knife down my side, on the driver's side. So, well, on the driver's door. So, I was like, wasn't too worried because I did have a weapon. So, it gave me a little bit more, like, confidence. And we started driving. Man, I took him home and then found out where I took him to. I was like, oh, yeah, I've been over here. Because a friend of mine lives over there. And I took him to a house in front of it. Because the road was kind of weird. It was like it came right off the highway onto like a gravel road. And then the way the back was, and it was like, this is Mississippi. So it was like in the backwoods, where once you get past this little wooded area, it's a big clearing, and it's like a bunch of houses and like almost like, but it's like a cul-de-sac. And except in the middle of it, it's like trees and grass stuff, but it's like a gravel road going like this in a circle, and it's houses in like different spots. And I had been over there before, but I had never been to this house. I was like, oh, I know a girl who lives over there. I was like, yeah, and then the house he dropped off, it was in someone I was in school. We were in the same grade. And I said, oh, yeah, I know her. Yeah. He said, yeah, it's my cousin. And I was like, oh, he said, I'm just staying here for a little while. I was like, oh, okay. But he would, if I hadn't picked him up as far as we went, he'd have been walking probably at least 3 hours. Because we drove, well, probably not 3 hours, but we were in the pitch black because he had to walk out of town, and it's no street lights. So it's just been pitch darkness. But he was like, well, what else is he going to do? And I guess he could have walked to that hotel right before you go out of town. It's like in the city limits. And I guess he could have stayed there. But you were like, especially down south, you like, I could just walk. But that far, I was like, man, because it took about almost 30 minutes to get there, maybe I'm probably a little less to get there. But it just, because it was hilly too, so I'm just like, well, it probably won't take you 3 hours, but like it'll take him a while. Plus, in the dark like that, I only walked on a road like that in the dark once. Well, by myself once. And it is like, it's weird feeling when you walking on a road. But when I was walking out that time, it was a full moon. So I had moonlight. The only thing about that, when you walking, you feel fearful of cars and not hitting you. Like when I saw like headlights coming, I felt like I wanted to dart into the woods because it was basically like it was like the highway, and then on the sides like a kind of like a shoulder with a like it's made of gravel, and then it's a ditch for runoff, and then that kind of goes off like this and goes up into like sometimes it just runs off and then it's level with the ground, and sometimes it goes down like this and then comes back up, and then it's like, you know, houses or wooded area or farmland or stuff like that. But where I was walking at, it went down like this, came back up, so you could theoretically just jump over the ditch. Ditch was probably like about 3-4 feet in width, and you feel like every time I saw like a car, cause you could see the lights coming, cause like I said, it was dark out. Only light was the moonlight, and you when you see the light, you most want to. I wanted to jump and try to like hide in the woods, but then I was like, no, like calm down, cause I wasn't looking for a ride. Cause it wasn't that far a walk, but cause somebody had started up, I'm like, no, I'm good. But it's just still they were like, no, I don't think you are good. Somebody get out. Like, yeah, get in the trunk. I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, I ain't getting no trunk. Like, when they say if somebody pulls a gun or whatever knife on you and they talking about taking you somewhere, don't go. You might die, but you don't know what the fuck you going to, so you might as well fight right now. They say, especially if somebody they don't have their face hidden, and they be like, they tell you they taking you somewhere. Don't go. They don't go. Do not come. Do not go. Anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed my reaction. And if you did, make sure to hit that thumbs up button down below. Make sure to subscribe, and if you hit that bell, if you want me to find when I upload the videos, comment down below, share this video. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.